Graham's focusing on the power of the camera.
Hello and welcome again to I Spy, looking at the ever-growing importance of the world's 60 million plus video and surveillance cameras. Tonight, an oil tanker explodes. How this footage is helping prevent more disasters. Neighbours at war, the camera that uncovered a mystery vandal.
Mr. Fothergill, saboteur extraordinaire.
Keeping a protective eye on two young runaways in the middle of the night. And video dating for a lovesick gorilla. But first, if you were out somewhere and you suddenly found yourself in the middle of a crime, what would you do? We probably all like to think that we'd intervene. As cameras witness more crimes, they also record some remarkable acts of bravery, acts that should make any potential criminal think twice.
When I saw the gun and knew there was an armed robbery for certain going on, then I felt anger, aggression.
There are more than 4,000 armed robberies in Britain every year. At a jeweller's in Lancaster, the man holding the flowers is about to stage another. As an innocent woman customer walks in the shop, a second man pushes in behind her, and the first pulls out a gun.
As soon as the gun was pointed in my face, I don't think I had a chance to think clearly. I was very frightened, obviously.
Robin Birkbeck, a friend of the owner, was sitting in the back room where he saw the events unfold.
A lot of noise and commotion started in the front office, and watching the monitor at one stage I saw this gun.
The robbers then order everyone into the back room. Out of the camera's view, all, including Robin, are told to lie on the floor.
I said I couldn't get down on the floor because I had a bad back. And I was thinking to myself, is it a real gun? And so I was trying to look at it without him seeing me. He caught me looking at the gun again, and he squirted me in the face with what turned out to be CS gas.
Unseen by the camera, Robin lunged at the gun, enabling shop owner Rodney and another customer to grapple with one of the robbers. They stumble back into view, and the police, tipped off by a silent alarm, arrive within seconds. The two robbers each got 8 years in prison. In fact, the gun turned out to be a replica, but Robin was commended by the judge for his bravery. This armed bandit thought robbing a defenseless Kent shopkeeper would be a pushover. He was wrong. There's always the risk of being seriously injured, but that still doesn't stop the most unlikely people fighting back. But have-a-go heroes can end up as victims. In this street in Newcastle, the man on the right has just stolen a briefcase from a passerby. The man on the left is a member of the public who saw what happened and is trying to hold him. But the robber's accomplices attack the would-be hero. Only the robber was caught, and he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The victim's injuries remained with him, a high price to pay for a split-second act of heroism. But for many who have a go, the risk of serious injury, or even worse, seems to be the last thing on their minds.
I don't think heroism comes into it. There was an opportunity to defeat two people that had come into Rodney's shop to do wrong, and the opportunity was there and we took it.
Now an environmental catastrophe, only averted by the efforts of rescuers. The videotape of what they did has now been sent around the world as a textbook example of how to deal with similar situations.
It looked unreal. Front end was gone, spewing oil everywhere.
The Kirky, a Greek-registered oil tanker, had been broken up by storms just off the coast of Australia.
Focus the camera on the oil. And then all hell broke loose.
Back. It's okay, it's okay.
She just ignited. Up she went. Flames going out everywhere. I know I would have been saying my prayers if I'd have been on top of that ship.
I was just thinking what if the whole ship went up?
With heavy winds, it was 4 hours before the crew could be winched up to safety. But that still left the problem of a tanker loaded with oil, now just half a mile from the coast. A massive salvage effort was launched. First, they had to get a tow line on board.
It's just unbelievable. Here's these 3 guys on the back of a tug. One guy falls over, and the back of that tug is open. So if he'd have gone overboard, he would have been squashed to death without any doubt.
The skipper had asked for volunteers for someone to jump on board. I thought, oh, well, I'll have a go at it. I'd leapt across, and I felt good that the decks actually hit my feet.
Okay, there's a man on the deck.
Finally, a tow line was attached and the Kirky pulled away from the imminent danger of hitting rocks. But the biggest challenge remained, getting the oil off.
So we had to work out a plan for ship-to-ship transfer of the oil. Putting 2 ships alongside one another out in the ocean is very dangerous.
Just one spark, and you could have had 2 oil tankers on fire. It was a sight I'll never forget. And there was guys there that were so tired, they'd been working all night just to get off that stricken rust bucket. But finally they did it.
So a pollution disaster was prevented. And it's hoped that by others studying the video of this remarkable rescue, such a spill will never happen. Now Scotland Yard's flying squad in action. An armed robbery is taking place inside this bank in London. The police take video as evidence to use in court. As the criminals are overpowered, the camera goes in to record every detail.
It gives a picture that is so much clearer, no matter how good an officer is at describing what he's seen and what was happening, to actually be able to put before a jury a film of the events as they happen, as they take place, is just by far and above the best evidence we can get.
The robbers' faces are taped for identification, along with evidence found as they're searched. Inside this man's jacket, the police find pieces of a sawn-off shotgun, which has just been used to threaten bank staff, plus a bag to carry away the cash, and balaclavas. Both men pleaded guilty and were sentenced to 9 years in prison. In 1 year alone, firearms were used in over 6,000 crimes in Britain. Video cameras are an increasingly important way of fighting back.
The criminals might dispute that they were carrying guns perhaps in a particular way. When they're actually shown on video, there can be no dispute.
It's 5:15 in the evening. 2 armed robbers are already inside this London jeweller's. Another robber enters. The officers see a member of staff being held on the floor and decide to move in.
This was a very dangerous operation. There were 3 main robbers in this, 2 of whom were armed with firearms, 1 with a sawn-off rifle. The upshot of this was the 3 robbers eventually appeared before Harrow Crown Court and were sentenced to 7 years imprisonment.
The peace and quiet of a suburban street, people happily living next door to each other. Sadly, the reality can be somewhat different. There are 130,000 complaints a year from people who find it hard to love their neighbours, and videos playing an important part in settling the rows.
There he is. Bloody big coward. May you rot in hell, you miserable...
I just wanted to give him a big bang on his head. Half kill him, really. I made a complaint to the police. said I thought one of our allotment holders was vandalising my garden. They said I had to produce some evidence, so I decided to do just that.
North Yorkshire. For months, someone had dug up his potatoes, chopped his cauliflowers, and now they were slashing his courgettes.
I lost 91 plants in total over the 6-day period.
So Alan Boys borrowed a friend's camcorder and hid in a shed next to his allotment.
By the time I'd got onto the perch, he was here.
Here he goes. Mr. Fothergill, there he is, chopping them up.
I just sat there, watched him chop my garden up. I was absolutely livid. Yeah, I was so mad with temper that I couldn't really keep the camera still.
You bloody had it, Mr. Fothergill.
It was the latest episode in a long-running dispute between the two men.
Could kill you.
Armed with this video, Mr. Boys presented his evidence to the police. Mr. Fothergill was convicted of criminal damage and forced to pay £28 compensation for the courgettes.
Mr. Fothergill, saboteur extraordinaire.
Meanwhile, at Torquay in Devon, another camera used in a very unneighbourly vendetta.
The first attacks on my van were carried out about 3 months after I moved in. I installed a small camera just below the guttering on the front of the house.
Again, the camera would trap whoever was responsible.
Most of the attacks were carried out on my vehicles. I've also had paint daubed over my front door.
So began around-the-clock surveillance. But neighbour David Kimberley objected to the camera. That's Mr. Kimberley on the right.
He accused me of invading his privacy and demanded that I had the camera removed.
Mr. Lynon left the camera where it was, so Mr. Kimberley took the law into his own hands. Here he is, carrying a powerful air rifle by his side.
I was just watching the morning news and I heard a noise outside.
Mr. Lynon checked his video recorder and saw Mr. Kimberley taking aim with his rifle.
It hit just off-centre of the lens. The camera is no longer usable.
Mr. Kimberley was fined £100 for criminal damage. We'll take a break there, but stay with us because when we return, young runaways saved from the dangers of the night, the man who marched a pub table to the bottom of the street and marched it back again, and no blind dates for Coco the gorilla. Thanks to video, she meets the man of her dreams. Whoa! What? In just this area, there are 17 cameras connected to the town's closed-circuit TV system and well over 100 more in shops, banks and other businesses. Try and commit a crime and you'd almost certainly be spotted. But that message still doesn't seem to have sunk in with some people. Two men visit an electrical shop in the southeast. They're interested in the stereos, but don't go for one yet. They come back after hours, reversing their car into the shop, then helping themselves. Both were identified from the security video and given lengthy prison sentences. Meanwhile, in a London shop, this man thinks he's taking a more subtle approach. He slips the video camera inside his jacket. But what he doesn't realise is that another camera on the display is recording his every move. Another store and another man after a camera, but the security camera? After staring into the lens, he then wrestles it from the wall, forgetting that what the camera sees is being taped by a machine elsewhere. This man in Plymouth has also forgotten something. He's just walked out of a shop without paying for his new jacket, but the dangling price tag gives him away. His friends tell him about the tag. Though he appears to spot the surveillance camera, he strolls away, still showing off the tag. But the CCTV operator points him out to police, who move in to arrest him. Newcastle, these thieves have already taken one car, now they're stealing another. It's a race against time because they've set off the alarm. They try to switch it off, but it's too late. They make a run for it, but they're caught. Police response time, thanks to the cameras, just 53 seconds. And perhaps most extraordinary of all, a reveller in the Cornish seaside town of Newquay wants a picnic table for his garden. But it's a long haul, and he's only part of the way home when the police turn up, and they make him take it all the way back. After a night in the cells, the man was allowed to go home with a caution. Now a crime we need your help to solve. Tonight's I Spy appeal is for two robbers who struck an off-licence at Wallington in Surrey. But this was no ordinary raid. When these two men enter the shop, the assistant has no reason to be suspicious. One is smartly dressed, in a suit and tie. He chooses a packet of sweets. But as he reaches into his pocket to pay, he pulls out a weapon. It's not a gun, but strangely, a sawn-off chair leg. His accomplice moves behind the till and grabs the cash box. They run off with around £200. If you recognise the men, call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Calls are free, you don't have to give your name, and you could get a reward. That's 0800 555 111. CCTV cameras don't just capture crimes. Sometimes they prove their worth in other ways, even at a time when most of us should be tucked up safely in bed. 3:45 in the morning at Leamington Spa in Warwickshire. A CCTV operator spots two small boys on the deserted streets. They were just 12 and 10, two brothers running away from home. They'd packed extra clothes and took potatoes and a lighter, optimistically, to cook them with.
We had a talk about it when we went to bed. Then we decided then we'd sneak out for something to do.
They were a mile from home when the police arrived. Then began a game of cat and mouse.
We legged it down the nearest side street we could find. And then we went back on the street. And then they came back round again. We got caught. They asked us our name and all that, and they took us back.
As far as their parents knew, the boys had been in bed and asleep.
I could have hit them, and I could have cuddled them, because there's so many drunks around, and so many people that will actually harm a child. Anything could happen to them. I think the cameras are a good idea, and they should be put around a lot more places.
Now a hidden camera, and how it helped police unravel the complexities of a £1 million stolen car racket. At this scrapyard, dozens of stolen cars are being stripped down for sale as spare parts.
It was like a David Attenborough nature film. It was like ants denuding an apple. They were just constantly busy around it, taking panels off, taking bits off, and that car just completely disappeared in front of our eyes.
Over 3 weeks, the camera kept track of stolen cars and who was carrying out each part of the crime. Then the gang were arrested. During questioning, police showed them the evidence.
When they actually saw the tapes, it varied between those who were completely resigned to what had happened to them, to others being actually astonished by what we'd done.
In court, the ringleaders were jailed for between 6 months and 4 years. Finally tonight, if you're looking for a partner, it might be worth considering one of those video dating agencies. The service is now available to everyone, men, women, and gorillas. This is Coco, a rather special gorilla, because through an American research project, she's learned to communicate by sign language. But it isn't her pet kitten she wants to nurse, as she herself explains.
Are you going to have a baby? What do you think? It's time? That's it. It's time for you to have a baby.
In the world of gorillas, the female does the choosing. And the females are very picky, so the rejection rate is high. Okay, Coco, what makes a good man, in your opinion? To bring a male in, ship him in with all the time and expense and trauma involved, could be a disaster because Coco could instantly reject him.
So we had the idea of showing her videotapes of other gorillas as potential mates for her.
This gorilla, you like him to visit?
She could see the video and know right away whether she liked the individual or not.
First up was Ivan, but Coco's sign for him. When she knocks her shoulders, it means obnoxious.
It would be obnoxious?
Even though he's a tall, a good-looking gorilla, 6 foot tall, she immediately looked at it and said no. She didn't want him.
Next it was Bongo from a zoo in Italy, and for Coco, amore at first sight.
Really Coco love. Looking. Oh my goodness, a big kiss.
He was a very attractive fellow, I must admit, but she would just stare and stare at the screen, asked to have it played over and over and over again. She was infatuated with this fellow. She signed Coco Love.
Coco Love. Oh, okay. You kiss him. Do you like him? Good.
But true love was thwarted when the Italians decided Bongo was too big a crowd puller to let go, so it was on to number 3, Undume.
Oh, that was a big kiss.
We asked her, pointed to Undume on the screen and said, would you like him to come? And she said, good.
Undume was flown across America, but when he arrived, he was found to have a parasite and had to go into quarantine for treatment. It was another 4 months before, at last, they could meet.
What do you want? She immediately asked for the gate to be open.
Do that? Open? Nice, that? Really?
And I asked her, are you sure? Is this what you want?
Okay.
Good, Coco Love.
I mean to open this. Is this what you mean? Coco Love. Hurry. Good. Hurry. Have nice. Oh, you're going to be nice? Coco Love, good. Okay. You're going to be nice, huh?
We expected that he would pursue her, and that's not what happened. He was climbing up the sides of the outdoor enclosure to get away from her.
She indeed was courting him in the only way she knew how. Now, this might have just been a little bit more than he was used to because he fled.
Whoa. Whoops.
But not complete rejection for Coco. The couple are now getting on better, and hopes are high that romance can blossom yet. That's it for this I Spy, but join us again next week when we'll see how a cameraman saved 2 lives when a parachute jump went wrong, the video vigilante who sets out to catch drink drivers, and the car that disappears bit by bit by bit. Until then, good night. If you've got a video to tell us about, please write to I Spy, LWT, London, SE1 9LT, or email ispy@lwt.co.uk.